believe in the ripple effect.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Ricardo Renz, also known as Ricky Branson. A great episode for you today. Today we have Mitchell Gerber. He is a amazing guest. Somebody who hasn't done a whole lot of interviews, at least not on many of the podcasts I subscribe to, and I subscribe to many podcasts. The reason is because I like to make sure I don't create a echo chamber of the same ideas being regurgitated, and I like to get different perspectives. And there's so many different podcasts that I subscribe to, and it's a topic I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about or dive nearly as deep as Mitchell does. And the topic I'm referring to is the allegations about China's organ harvesting. But what I loved about this discussion, we didn't just talk about that specific topic. We talked about China as a whole, their influence, their history, their culture, and all the corruption and conspiracies that revolve around China. So I know you're going to enjoy all the information and insight that Mitchell brings to the conversation. I'll put links to his websites and his Twitter account and much more in the show description, so please check that out. And the interesting thing about these topics, Chinese corruption, conspiracy, censorship, is that we had tons of tech issues. I have done so many episodes, obviously, as you know, because I'm over 400 now. I've never had Zoom stop recording or kick my guest off as many times as they did during this show. I don't know if it's a computer issue. I'm going to find out when I do more episodes if it continues to happen or whatnot, but it seems kind of unusual, kind of weird. So keep that in mind. If you notice that it seems like parts of the conversation were clipped together, it's because my Pro Tools recording turned off out of nowhere for some reason, and our Zoom call kept dropping, kept stopping the recording, kept kicking off Mitchell. So a lot of weird stuff was happening, and I'm going to do my best to try to paste it all together and make it flow as best as possible. And if you guys appreciate that work and all the work I put into trying to bring you the most interesting guests, the most interesting topics, please consider supporting the show. I know times are tough. I know the future is uncertain, and that's why support for the show has been kind of low. Not to be negative, but it has been kind of low. And I know there's people out there who can financially support the show. And if you can, please consider supporting the show. There's plenty of ways of doing it. You can send crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We have a PayPal account if you want to send a donation. We have a Patreon page if you want to support me monthly. And thank you everybody who has. I truly appreciate it. We have an amazing merch store that has tons of stuff and tons of new designs. So please check out the merch store. You can go directly there by going to the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com. And we have hats, mugs, cups, hoodies, tank tops, kids and women clothes. We have so many things. Please check out the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com or go to the rippleeffectpodcast.com, click on support, and you'll find all the ways that you can support the show. Also, if you're listening to the audio version of this episode or watching it on Odyssey or some of the platforms that let me put all these links in the show description, you can find all the links there. So please check that all out. And of course, last but not least, the University of Reason is another way of supporting the show. It's Richard Grove's online courses that he created to help people get the most value out of their lives, out of their skills, or even learn some new skills. So please check out the University of Reason. The links are in the show description. Also, the amazing artist I've been using of late, Johnny Larson, his information is in the show description. So if you want to find a reasonably priced artist who does amazing work, hit him up, let him know you're a listener of the show, and he will help you create whatever artwork or logo or design you might want for your band, your podcast, your book, whatever it may be. So check out Johnny Larson's information. And I'll also put links to Miriam Haneen's website, which has tons of supplements and vitamins and tons of stuff. If you've ever listened to her on a Union of the Unwanted episode or on the Ripple Effect podcast, you know she knows her stuff about health and nutrition and vitamins and minerals. Check out the link below to her website, and using that link will also support the show. So tons of ways of supporting the show financially if you can. Of course, if you can't, don't worry about it. Rate the show, review the show, take a minute to share the show on Float or Getter or Parler or Facebook if you're still there, Instagram, any social media platform you're on. Help spread the word, help get people exposed to a show that has been suppressed and censored, and more importantly, a show that has brought some value, hopefully, to your life and your way of thinking. So from the bottom of my heart, everyone who has financially supported the show, thank you. Everybody who also has supported the show in other ways by rating and reviewing the show, also thank you. I truly, truly appreciate it. The goal has always been to eventually make this passion project a career. With all your support, hopefully one day I can do that. Thanks, guys. Hope everyone is well. Enjoy this amazing conversation, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Mitchell, thank you so much for being patient.
My brother, no problem, anytime. I was actually talking to Brandon. He sends his best. I'm going on his show tomorrow because of you. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, oh, great. That's great. Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting topic because many of us don't know much about it and don't realize how serious it is. I mean, obviously China does a really great job of keeping things secret and kind of I guess controlling their own narratives and controlling the media and all that type of stuff. I mean, in the US, we've seen a lot of that with even with pro sports, like with basketball. You get somebody like Ernest Cantor speak out against China. Next thing you know, China's not televising any Celtics games or, you know, or whoever he's playing for at the time. And so it's pretty wild because right now the Russia narrative is very strong and everybody's always talking about Russia and what a threat they are and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, it's funny how China gets a pass on a lot of this stuff. So, but you know much more about this topic than I do. But one thing I do like doing in the beginning of the show is for people who aren't familiar with maybe a little bit of your origin story, where you grew up, how you got involved in journalism, and then involved in this specific story.
Absolutely, Ricky. And again, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to grace your wonderful podcast. I've heard a lot about you. I am definitely subscribed to all your videos and all your podcasts because we need more people like you and Brandon and other people who are not scared to speak the truth and to fail to support what is good and to fail to expose what is evil, brother, is unacceptable. So I would love to share, by the way, if you can allow me to share the screen with you, I'll take you and your audience on a journey. I have some clips prepared as well and some websites that people can go and research themselves. But basically, for 22 years of my life, since I was 21, now I'm about 42 years old, I have been exposing the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, a reign of terror that has killed more life than 2 world wars combined, decimated 5,000 years of Chinese culture and history and traditional values, has infiltrated into China and all the governing bodies, intelligence agencies, multinational corporations, big pharma, big tech, and criminal journalist media to basically take over the world. And this reign of terror, which is the CCP, I came to understand when I was studying international business at the University of Georgia. I've been an investigative journalist for 22 years. The only reason why I was born in South Africa is my family, which was left with them from Nazi-occupied Lithuania and Hungary, fled to South Africa, and that's when I was born and raised as a Jewish person. I've never really followed much of the religious faith. I consider myself a spiritual person. I am a believer in God. I enjoy the Christian religion just like I enjoy the Buddhist way and the Jewish faith. But I believe as a human being, to fail to support what is good and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. And what is a person who cannot make the world a better place? So I became the first person in my family after immigrating from South Africa to America to become an American citizen. And then I was called on a mission. I sacrificed big positions as an investment banker, I went to a top 10 school of business when I was studying in Atlanta, Georgia. And I gave everything up to follow my heart and go on a crusade to expose the new form of evil that is going on in China against a spiritual movement that many people don't know about. And I'm grateful to be on your show to expose this. So thank you, Ricky, again.
Yeah, these are type of conversations I love and the type of people I love having conversations with, because I think any of us or many of us in this field of diving deep into these topics, we're all like you said. I mean, that's why I've heard you say it before, and I love that you keep repeating it. Like, if you don't attempt to expose, this horror, this evil in the world, then I mean, who are you? I mean, how do you know these things and not do everything you can to get this information out there? I think that's what motivates most of us, is just trying to leave the earth a little better than we received it, and we're all doing our part. I mean, that's why I named the show The Ripple Effect, because I truly believed in the idea that we can all start a ripple, and you never know what type of impact that ripple might have on the world. And I think once if we think the opposite, that we can't make a difference, then we've already failed, we've lost. And so I mean, every great change in the world has started off with a man and a idea or a passion or a desire to try to create change. So I think that's what we're all trying to do. And so I love what you're doing. And so specifically, we're going to get into the organ harvesting. I mean, there's very little information out there, even on it. I mean, I know, what is it, China Uncensored, that YouTube channel, they've done some videos on it. I know you've been on The War Room with Steve Bannon. You've been interviewed a little bit, but let's get into what it is, what, who buys these things, why are they doing it, who are the victims, like all that stuff. And I also gave you, I made you co-host, so you should be able to share your screen. So anything you want to do, anything you want to share, feel free to take control of the show.
No, that's great, Ricky. And I can see your machine guns in the back. I think 2 or 3 of them. And Bob Marley said, "When one thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain." And Jimi Hendrix said, he's going to cut down he uses his guitar to play music, right, and to expose evil through creation. And that is the most non-violent form of powerful truth through music. And this is what we have to do through music, through word of mouth, through discernment. We can't go to war with China. I mean, that would be a nuclear holocaust, and I don't believe in anything violent, even though I'm on the border of China, by the way. I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk. I have been exposed to child trafficking rings here. And actually, when I was on the Alex Jones show, special operators invited me because they saw my show with Alex, as well as Stu Peters. And we went on and we rescued certain little girls trafficked on the North Vietnamese border to China before COVID. This was about 2 years ago. So, again, what is a man who cannot make the world a better place? So without further ado, yeah, the organ harvesting is so dire, because imagine if it was your family, ladies and gents. Imagine it was your loved ones who were just taken out, placed into and forced into mobile execution vans, taken to state-mandated hospitals, your organs cut out of your bodies while alive and sold for massive amounts of profits. You see what's happening in Shanghai now, the lockdowns. And we don't even want to get into the CCP virus. It's another show that's a show for a whole other world, another time. That's Pandora's box. But in terms of the organ harvesting, yeah, in 1999, the Chinese Communist Party dictator Jiang Zemin, and I'll play a video just what actually happened to a spiritual movement called the Falun Gong, also known as the Falun Dafa, that was targeted for eradication because it became the largest spiritual movement, Ricky, in all of China between 1992 and 1998, and then it was completely outlawed, just like Jews in the Holocaust, just like Tutsis in Rwanda, just like in Armenia, in Cambodia, when you are targeted and just completely banned from your belief, just like the Black communities in America in the civil rights movement. So this particular spiritual movement was completely outlawed. Before I go on and share with you and take you more on the journey of the organ harvesting, it is important to understand who has been targeted. and then we'll get into why they were targeted. So let me share with you before and with your lovely audience. And again, it's such an honor to be on your show. Like I said, I'm grateful for any airtime I can get to share about this particular topic, because not many people know about this. But here we go. Let me share with you exactly. Hopefully you can hear it. Please let me know if it's coming in loud and clear. Am I coming in loud and clear, by the way?
Yeah, you sound great.
Great. Let me see if this goes through. Coming in.
Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, is an advanced self-cultivation practice that improves mental and physical wellness through physical exercises and the development of one's character. In China, cultivation practices have a history of thousands of years and form the spiritual foundation of Chinese civilization. In 1992, Falun Dafa was introduced to the public by Master Li Hongzhi. The practice quickly spread because of its profound principles and proven health benefits. By 1999, with over 100 million practitioners.
100 million practitioners, Ricky. 1 out of every 10 Chinese national citizens, from the highest ranking forms of the military, the highest Politburo executive branch cadres, government officials, 30% of the higher up, 30% of the upper class society were practicing, over 30%. And it was just growing exponentially. This is pictures before the crackdown and the complete persecution of Falun Gong or Falun Dafa in China. And as you can see, and I'll just share with you again with the volume off, these are the exercises. They're very simple. They're 4 exercises, very simple. That's the second one, where you stand in a Qigong type of posture to meditate. Very simple, very easy, very relaxed. This is the exercises. The third one, where you're almost like more of a Reiki type of Qigong, martial arts, Tai Chi kind of motion. And again, this was outlawed. This is the simple meditation that was used or shown in China. And this particular practice, like I said, 100 million people started to practice. But by 1999, the Chinese Communist Party outlawed this practice and started their brutal persecution against it.
Now, what was the threat to the Chinese government? Like, what were, because it seems like some type of, like you said, meditation, some type of spiritual reflection or healing that can be gained from some type of exercises or like this. But what like, were they worried about people? I don't know. I mean, were they worried that maybe they'd be less controllable? They'd be less easy to brainwash them because they'd be open-minded, because they would be reflecting? I mean, what was it?
100%. There are 3 actual reasons. And we have to understand that there's no limit to how far the Chinese Communist Party will go out of their way to wipe out somebody or something. You've heard about the Tiananmen Square massacre that happened in 1989, where they just massacred tens of thousands of students. You've heard about Tibet, where they've just massacred Tibetans, house Christians. You've heard about the ethnic cleansing. You were talking about Enos Cantor, the NBA star, the courageous NBA star, who was stood up against the Chinese Communist Party, murdering and ethnically cleansing millions of Uyghur Muslims and destroying them and forced aborting the Uyghur children. Well, the Falun Gong, also known as the Falun Dafa, became the largest spiritual movement, Ricky and everybody who's listening, in China. For 3 reasons, they were persecuted and brutally tortured and now harvested for their organs. Number 1, because the practice became the largest spiritual movement. When you have 100 million people practicing slow-moving exercises, following a philosophy that is truthful, compassionate, and tolerant, you cause a huge threat under the communist regime. I'm living under a communist dictatorship right now. I placed myself intentionally living in America as a constitutional American citizen, in America for 25 years in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. I put myself in a communist country to see the comparison, the stark realities of these two worlds, where you have no private property, you have no gun rights, you have no constitutional sovereign rights, the right to be self-governant and self-determined, and to have your own private property, your own private enterprise, your own legal right to defend yourself, granted under the Constitution and the sovereignty of your citizenry. But in a communist country, when you became too big and popular and free thinking and independent, and you nailed it, you cannot control that heart and mind anymore of your citizenry. What do? You suppress, you ban, you target, you eliminate, you scapegoat, and you send to gulags and concentration camps. So when Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, became the largest spiritual movement in China, the military dictator of the time in the early 1990s, and not many people know about him, and I've got another couple of clips I'll play in a moment. Jiang Zemin got very hateful and jealous that he couldn't control so many people. So he outlawed them and started to demonize them as some sinister cult, evil radical terrorist group, and that poisoned the minds of the Chinese people against Falun Gong to give the go-ahead of the CCP to send these people to state-mandated hospitals. So the first one was the first reason why I was persecuted is because of the largest popularity of the spiritual movement. The second is the contrast, the stark contrast of ideology. Falun Gong, like Christianity, Judaism, Falun Gong is not a religion, by the way, it's a spiritual movement, but it has the same universal precepts and principles and characteristics of Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, of being more truthful, being compassionate, being tolerant. Whereas the Chinese Communist Party conquered in order to kill. They are full, their history of killing is just so evil, their diabolical nature, their lies, their nepotism, their sabotaging, their bribes, their deception, their barbarism, their cannibalistic nature is so sinister. So they wanted to destroy a God-fearing, good, upright practice that only wanted to help people. And the third reason is because they could make money off the organs of the Falun Gong because of their exercises and their way of life. Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, many billionaires out there, many success coaches and life coaches have always stipulated and reiterated and stressed the mind is a terrible thing to waste. When your mind is pure, positive, truthful, compassionate, your body follows it. 70%, I think, or 80% psychological, 20% physiological. So if your mind is filled with good thoughts, righteous thoughts, upright thoughts, you consider people in your business, you lead people with compassion, you're kind to your wife or your husband and your children, and your relationships are in harmony with yourself, then that's a good society. So when Falun Gong was spreading, the suicide rates were going down, the mortality rates, people were living longer, feeling better, the productivity rates were going up because the mind was good, the mind was positive, so the body was following. So the third reason and the last reason is because the CCP targeted their organs after doing medical investigative experimentation on Falun Gong, seeing the effects of the spiritual practice. The health efficacy was just skyrocketing. It became the life force of China, and they decided to profit off these organs, and then started to send the Falun Gong, after demonizing them, to these state-mandated hospitals, cut their organs out of their bodies while alive, and fuel a multi-billion-dollar organ harvesting, transplantation on-demand business that is still going on today. So I hope that answers your question, Ricky. Sorry, it was a little long-winded, but that's the brunt of it.
No, that's perfect. No, be as long-winded as you want. People are sick of hearing me talk for 400 episodes, so it's good to hear somebody else go for a long rant. But without a doubt, like, so it sounds like what you're saying is that it's not, it's financially motivated, right? Because they're obviously making money off it, but also like they're killing two birds with one stone, and they also get to eliminate what they feel could be a threat to their empire, their control over the population. And without a doubt, I mean, there's a lot to that in regards to People who are mentally healthy and are in good spiritual places, it's much harder to fool them. It's much harder to trick them. It's much harder. They see through it. You know, you see it now with the West, with America, and it seems like. And I'm not a practicing religious person. I'm Portuguese, so I was born in Portugal, but so I was kind of raised Catholic, but I rebelled against it quite a bit as when I was young. And but now, like as I get older in age, I start appreciating the spirituality part of it, and the asking of bigger questions, and looking at life as like, okay, you know, the big picture of life, like what's the meaning of man, why are we here, how do I live a fulfilled life, how do I live a good moral life? Like those are the questions that I think a lot of people
Exactly.
get spirituality and religion. And I think a lot of times when religion or spirituality is used for harmful things, it's typically just somebody who doesn't even really believe in it. It's just people who are using it as a weapon to control a way of controlling people. You see it all the time with some of the Muslim extremists or whatever. You know, some of the leaders aren't even practicing. You know, they don't even practice the religion that they're using to control people. And then some of the people who aren't violent, who, you know, there's plenty of examples of people who are Muslim or Christian or Jewish or whatever, who just use it as a guidelines to a way of living. And I think in the West, we live such fast-paced lives, and I say this all the time on the show. Like it's so easy to get caught up in, you know, your work priorities, your family priorities, your, you know, house priorities if something breaks or whatever, and just go, 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 go. You never have time to like analyze and reflect and try to understand what's going on. I think during the lockdown in 2020, a lot of people started getting red pilled with not just the medical world, but with a lot of different issues, because they finally had time on their hands to actually like take time to think about things. And I think when you pump the brakes and you have time to kind of reflect on your life choices or what's going on, or if somebody's lying or deceiving to you, a lot of times you start figuring that out. But it's much easier to control people when they're on that wheel running, you know, in place over and over again. You're in debt. You're spending all your best years of your life and energy and time in a job that's unfulfilling, but they tell you like, hey, that's what life's about. Just keep trying to get promoted, keep getting more ones and zeros in your bank account, keep buying these material things that just give you this temporary satisfaction. And then a lot of times it's not till the end of your life that you look back and you're like, wow, like I wish I spent more time doing something more fulfilling, something with purpose, you know? So I do think a lot, not just in China, I think all over the world, I think that's sometimes used to keep us, you know, not paying attention, or to keep us divided, or not or keep us in a state that it's easier to manipulate us or control us, because we're not paying attention. We are paying attention, but to all the wrong things, like trying to get promoted and trying to get a new car and fancy stuff. So without a doubt, you can kind of see how it's not just a Chinese problem. It almost seems like it's a problem throughout the whole world.
Oh, absolutely. And to add to your very eloquent point, under communism, you do not have you're not born to think critically. You're groomed to feel like a slave, to become a police-stated slave. You are watched, and you are born into fear, poverty, extreme, brutal trauma. That at every point, if you criticize your government, if you critically think, if you deviate from the central command of the communist regime, you are then taken to a gulag, you are taken to questioning, you are completely controlled. So you are basically MK Ultra'd. I was at the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. I brought my coalition, which I'll share with you in a moment, that, you know, we were listening to MK Ultra victims and child trafficking victims, and they were talking about when you are out of the womb, you are immediately traumatized into control. That's exactly what happens in communist countries. If you listen to survivors from communist countries, they'll tell you that it's a traumatization. It's an intentional traumatization, MK Ultra, control of the mind, leading the person to do horrific things, to rat out your neighbors, hurt and harm people, struggle with heaven and earth, not believing in critical thinking, not believing in godly values, traditional values, killing as the modus operandi, deceiving people. This is what is under communism. It's a reign of terror and a specter that is now ruling our world. So when coming back to Falun Gong, Ricky, many people were initially drawn to Falun Gong because of its healing effects. Like many people, if they're sick and they're feeling down or they're depressed, many people were initially drawn to a holistic practice that could bring out great understanding, great awareness, great health. And a significant reason for Falun Gong's popular appeal as well, it wasn't cultish, it wasn't extreme. It was very simple and straightforward. The requirements of people who practice this would just be truthful, compassionate, tolerant in your waking life, in your business, in your relationships, let go of negative attachments, and be responsible to yourself and others. It wasn't fanatical, as you saw in the video, Mr. Lee Hong-seo, who has been nominated for 5 Nobel Peace Prizes, a phenomenally honorable teacher, a humble teacher at that, who allowed this practice to be spread freely, had 200 students, and then within 8 years, just through word of mouth, 100 million people, and that's the reason why the CCP outlawed it as well and was threatened by Falun Gong, particularly, or Falun Dafa, and declared war on it because it outnumbered the number of people practicing Falun Gong or Falun Dafa, the spiritual practice, this mind and body practice, outnumbered the number of registered party members in the Chinese Communist Party by 30 million people, Ricky. So when that happens in communism, they will do everything to destroy it. And the Chinese people recognize that Falun Gong, the core of their existence, their core of their traditional values, was rooted in this. And you know, they were very attracted. I mean, from people from all walks of life, like I said, all strata, all religions, all nationalities, you know, from farmers to university professors to homeschoolers to communist cadres to military soldiers to the highest-ranking Politburo members of the Communist Party. But because the Chinese Communist Party's military dictator, who also had to do with the CCP virus, by the way, hated it and wanted to destroy it. But I wanted to play another clip because I don't want to talk too much because I know people. A visual can tell 1,000 words, you know, but if I may, if I could share another clip with your lovely audience and for you. Here we go. Oh, let me see here.
Taking place in hospitals throughout the country as organ transplants suddenly began to skyrocket.
We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true.
I began conducting comprehensive interviews with medical professionals, Chinese law enforcement personnel, and over 50 refugees from the Laogai system. But I estimate that 65,000 Falun Gong were murdered for their organs from 2000 to 2008.
Essentially what organ harvesting means is they're taking Falun Gong practitioners literally like cattle, holding them in prison camps, testing their blood and other vital organs, and when someone comes into the country that needs a heart, a liver, a kidney, they find a match, they take the Falun Gong practitioner, extract their organs, of course killing them in the process.
People who are expecting this to sort of just be solved naturally by all we have to do is sit back and they'll fix it, this is wrong. The West has to take a role. And the one role the West can do is say, these are our values. We cannot go beyond this. There are certain lines we can't cross. This is a red line. That's an absolute red line.
Enver Tohti, the surgeon turned bus driver, says it's been 20 years since he removed the organs from that live prisoner. It remains a mystery why so few people have ever heard about the thing he says he cannot forget.
This is my experience. This is a real true story. If you keep silence, this tragedy will continue. And people, they just don't want to touch this evil. Because if you touch this evil, maybe at the end of the day, you may not be able to tackle this the consequences. That's just my guess.
So what you just saw, Ricky, is the investigators who I brought on a coalition to London to testify in front of the British Parliament. I'll share that with you in a moment as well. But Dr. Enver Tohti, the bus driver, he was a surgeon in China who was forced by the Chinese Communist Party. He went on Bannon with me to share about this and the evidence. This is irrefutable. To all the skeptics out there who say, yeah, well, is this really going on? Is this really going on? This is truly going on. We have enough evidence lasting and spanning 25 years exposing the CCP for forced organ harvesting. And the CCP is trying to downplay it as if it's only just the prisoners, but all the prisoners have hepatitis B. Majority of them have hepatitis B, and that degrades the liver, degrades the organs. The Falun Gong, and also the numbers don't add up, because to fuel a multi-billion-dollar business on demand, you really have to have waiting times which have been reduced from 4 to 8 to 6 years for kidneys, livers, pancreases, hearts, to a matter of weeks, to a matter of days. So here you are, like a lopsided of a tank in labor camp 5. You find a match. It's forceful blood test. You take that match, you cut all the organs out while that person's alive, by the way. So the transplant surgery is the actual murder. These people are alive. They're not dead. They're alive, because the fresher the organ, the better it is. The higher the price it is, the higher the value. So the blood is still flowing, according to the testimony of Enver Tohti, the bald-headed man, Ethan Gutmann, who did a 10-year investigation on the Uyghur Muslims, as well as joining coalition of David Kilgore, who just died recently, and David Mattis, the 2 investigators out of Canada, who you also saw. And they have been exposing this for 25 years now. So there's absolutely no doubt that this is going on.
It's wild. And so this is, I mean, this leads to a bigger question in regards to, like, if they're doing this, what, and most people aren't aware of it, what else are they doing that we're not aware of, which is pretty scary. Now, in regards to the philosophy being a threat to the Chinese government, I know they teach Confucianism in like, what's your opinions on that? And did the philosophies collide or conflict? What was that? And it's weird because Confucianism, in the past, I love philosophy, so sometimes I'll dive deep into different philosophies, and I remember diving deep into it. I'm like, it doesn't seem like a bad thing, and it seems like it's a good thing, like what they're teaching and the questions that they're proposing, and the worldviews and that type of thing. But what's your opinion on that? Have you dibble-dabbled in that at all?
Yes, Confucianism is a very good philosophy because it teaches people to be in harmony with themselves, with their fellow man, and with the heavenly values, regardless of whether you believe or you don't believe. But the Confucius Institutes are weaponized communist arms of the Chinese Communist Party. They have actually been spy tanks. And I learned this when I sat down with the FBI when I had death threats in Atlanta, Georgia, because the FBI, like the CDC, are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, where I spent most of my time as an investigative journalist, until I started to go out around the world and expose, and now on the front lines close to China, the South China Sea, by the way. But the Confucius art form, like martial arts and kung fu and bagua and tai chi and yoga, they were all ancient techniques and philosophies of how to teach, how to consider people, how to be in balance with your inner self and your outer self, with your fellow human being, and with whatever's up there in terms of whether you're agnostic or whether you're a believer, God, divine, a higher power, spirit. So Confucianism is very good. It's deeply rooted in Buddhism and Taoism, just like Falun Gong. Falun Gong is one of many spiritual practices, but it became the largest. But when you're talking about the Confucius Institutes, they are disguised as communist spy tanks that have been infiltrating the United States and the world to spy on the government agencies, to infiltrate the government agencies. And you know how we know as well? Is because of a leaked database of 1.95 million spies. Let me share, if I can share this with you, Ricky.
I believe I actually do remember running into something some investigative journalist that was talking about how the Confucianists, teachers in the U.S. and
Yes,
schools, how like they're all basically just Chinese spies, and
absolutely.
and even locally, because I live in Massachusetts, at UMass, I know there was and it was funny because there was like very little follow up on the story, but there was a professor who was getting paid on the side by the Chinese government and was arrested, and that was like the end of the story. And I'm like, wait, why is that the end of the story? Shouldn't there be an investigation into who else is getting paid by them, and if this is common or uncommon, and what they were trying to get from our universities, what information they're trying. So it's amazing the amount of influence they have in this country, and yet like they get a pass on everything. And it's not to say that they're the only boogeyman in the world, but it's like, you amplify, Russia and anybody else that they don't, the Western powers don't like, in Syria or whoever. And not to say that Putin or Assad's a great person and they don't have their flaws, and I'm sure that's a long discussion and debate, but there's no conversation about China. Like there's nothing. Like there's nobody. The the government. I mean, besides the right, I guess is more outspoken about it. But like when you look at like just the media, you look at celebrities. I mean, I don't know if you remember the John Cena thing where he said something that offended the Chinese government, and then they actually made him learn how to say it in their native tongue.
Yes, unbelievable.
Just to apologize. I'm like, what? Like that's how much influence they have. I mean, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I remember reading the statistic that there is more, and I keep repeating this, so maybe I should have looked it up myself to make sure it was accurate. But I'm pretty sure I remember that when the whole NBA thing was going on with like the Houston Rockets and the GM tweeting something, and that caused that whole issue. I think I remember reading somewhere that there was more NBA fans in China than there are people in the US, which means like just think about the amount of financial influence they have over the NBA. So it's like, they're involved in everything, in media, in movies, like everything is controlled in some way by the Chinese government. And what they're doing is they're pushing their ideology and their power almost indirectly. Like it's almost like the US and Western powers are still pushing their ideology and expanding their empire the old-fashioned way with like wars and proxy wars and physical conflict. And China's doing it, almost like a much more clever way by influencing our media, our TV, our movies, our celebrities. Like, is that? Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. And there's a great publication. I don't know if you see it here. I was just showing your folks while we were talking and deliberating incredible, eloquent points. The Epoch Times out of New York City, how the specter of communism is ruling our world. They've infiltrated. I mean, communism is a devil bent on destruction of humanity, and the devil has its ways and means. As you can see, I mean, the communism beginning in Europe, even the Rothschilds backed Mao Zedong, the Rockefellers backed Mao Zedong, the Karzanian families, the World Economic Forum, the Klaus Schwab, are all in collusion with the Chinese Communist Party, the multinational corporations, Big Pharma. Pfizer has 70 high-ranking Chinese Communist Party officials sitting on their boards. You got Biden, you got Trudeau. I mean, just look at the epicenter of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. 4 specialized units out of the 14 are owned by the Chinese Communist Party. The Secretary General Tedros is a patsy for the Chinese Communist Party because the One Belt Initiative in Africa, where the CCP has completely dominated all the resources in Africa as well. Okay, the Hollywood is involved. You are right about the NBA. There are more, the market share, look, profit, human extinction before a loss of profit. So, when you have the Golden State Warrior founder coming out and saying, the Uyghur Muslims, who cares? We honestly don't care. It's below our line. below our line because they'll take money over human life. LeBron said nothing about the Hong Kong invasion of the CCP and the Hong Kong protesters, as brave as they were. Even Taiwan, I mean, it's on the verge of war with Taiwan. So no one's standing up to the CCP because of the massive amounts of money. The propaganda that has been, as you said, they made John Cena speak in Chinese to apologize to the Chinese Communist Party. Only Enos Cantor has had the balls and the backbone and the guts to speak up and say what he truly feels is important to stand up for what is right. And as I preface this, it all comes down to what I was saying before. To fail to support what is good, Ricky, and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. And many people don't want me on their podcast because many people are in bed with the mainstream media, specifically the leftist media, as well as Fox. Forbes, Fox. We have lists of names of Western traitors that are colluding with the CCP. I was in Bannon and he pressed me for the names. I said, no, I can't give you the names right now because that's very risky business. But again, let me share with you a clip, if I may, Ricky. Again, I know this has been a very engaging conversation. There's a lot to learn. But at the end of the day, at the end of the podcast, I would love to share the websites that people can actually go and share and see what's going on, because I love to target or appeal to the skeptics, because once you get skeptics on your side, that's game over, because that's irrefutable evidence. And that's what's important. So let me share with you again. And at the end of this clip, you're going to actually hear a doctor. This is also one of the major bombshell evidence that we have received. Let me see what I can share with you. Hard to believe. Here. At the end of this clip, you're going to hear our investigators calling into the hospitals and the medical associations, talking to very high-ranking doctors, premiers, military directors, presidents of the hospitals, talking about where they can get Falun Gong or Falun Dafa organs. And you hear the doctor, listen to what the doctor says. I'm only not going to say it. I want you to hear it and listen to it and actually watch it. But these clips are taken from Hard to Believe movie. It's an 18 award-winning documentary. It received the prestigious Peabody Award for journalist integrity, and it was created by 2 Emmy Award producers. So listen to this.
By 2000, Falun Gong practitioners were disappearing into labor camps in mass numbers. At the same time, Chinese hospitals began promoting their organ transplant expertise.
I'm David Matus, and with me is David Kilgore. We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. David Kilgore is a former member of parliament and former cabinet minister for Asia Pacific, and I'm a Winnipeg lawyer doing immigration, refugee, and international human rights law in Winnipeg. And we have now done our investigation, and we're producing this report. And I didn't know whether it's true or not, and so my task initially was to try to figure out a way of approaching the issue so that I could either prove it or disprove it and not just walk away and say, I don't know.
The number of executions in China varied widely depending on who was counting. But Matus says no matter which number he used, the number of executions and the number of organs didn't add up.
The transplant volumes increased substantially after the persecution of Falun Gong began. And I mean, there's a lot of other evidence, but the most likely explanation for the increase is the Falun Gong. We pursued every investigative trail we could find. In the report, you will see that there are 18 different avenues of proof and disproof we considered and evaluated. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true. We believe them to be true, that this harvesting is indeed happening.
Matus says what made Falun Gong organs especially attractive was the practitioners' healthy lifestyle. They do not drink or smoke. On many of the recordings of phone calls made to more than 100 Chinese hospitals, doctors assure callers that transplant organs are from healthy Falun Gong practitioners.
都是那种健康的法轮功是吧？健康的法轮功。对对对，肯定是学得好的才能做完，因为这种东西做了要保证质量的。那是都要像你们都要做监狱去自己去挑选是吧？对对对，肯定。
So they would actually just go pick them out like a grotesque restaurant at a wet market. I deal with the wet markets all day long with me and my wife at the market. They would just pick out a lobster, cut it up for you, or a chicken out of a cage, cut everything open and just give it to you. The same with the Falun Gong, the same in the CCP death camps. And remember, there are over 252 concentration camps. There are hotspots right next to the Olympic venues, Ricky, not to mention over 3,000 hospitals. So we have estimated that the investigators between 80 to 100,000 transplant murders a year. And that's a conservative figure and estimate, by the way.
Yeah, for some reason the recording stopped. I just restarted it again. But yeah, that's very interesting. The thing is, so that made sense in that little video of yours. The fact that people who did that type of spiritual practice also lived healthier lifestyles. So you could assume that their organs or whatever you're harvesting and getting from the people were going to be, I guess, top quality stuff, for lack of a better way of putting it. But so that's interesting. I mean, there's quite a few types of people in China that they discriminate against, and I mean, do you think is it really, could you use the word genocide? I mean, are they trying to end a culture, end a philosophy, end a type of people?
100% right. When the persecution of Falun Gong began, they targeted Falun Gong, declared war on it. Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder, his book was a bestseller, the top of the top book in China. Seriously, they started to burn all the books, crash all the audio tapes that had all the exercise movements, arrest anybody coming door to door, taking Falun Gong or Falun Dafa practitioners, it's also called, out of their homes, out of their businesses. Their marriage licenses were taken away, their children were taken away, their businesses were taken away. They became raw material. Jiang Zemin, the former president of China, declared them as raw materials, and to eliminate them financially, physically, spiritually, the ethnocide, eradicating the spirit. There's genocide and there's ethnocide. The cold genocide and murder of 100 million people. He tried to wipe them out with the communist regime, the Chinese military, the People's Liberation Army, the secret police, the hospitalization system, 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit for the last 25 years to eradicate the spiritual movement. And they haven't succeeded for 25 years now. And just to share with you, Ricky, and the audience, look at the prices over here. This is a surging business. I mean, 30,000 for a cornea, lungs 150,000 to 170,000, 62,000 for a kidney, for livers 98,000. These, as you saw in the previous video, in the clip, they actually promoted this. This is absolute genocide, without a doubt. The short waiting times. I mean, in the United States Department of Health and Human Services say an average waiting period for organs in the US is 2 years. In China, it's 2 weeks. So here we are, okay, at the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. This is David Kilgore with Ethan Gutman. This is Ethan Gutman, the bald-headed guy. David Kilgore just passed away, unfortunately, with a lung disease. Rest in peace. But I was able to bring David Kilgore, fly him out from Canada, actually such a stone from the International Tribunal of Natural Justice at a child trafficking court, like you see here. We're actually able to bring me out and fly David Kilgore, and then we met with Ethan Gutman and Dr. Invitotti to share about this. But this is the proof. Just listen to this, Ricky. Just listen to what David Kilgore. I don't know how much more time we have left. I'm trying to condense 25 years into like a matter of an hour. Forgive me.
Well, I got at least another half an hour, so no rush.
Wonderful. And I'm sure the folks that are listening to this, thank you so much for your time and your precious time, because I know your lives are very busy as well. But just listen to what he has to say, and then I'm sure you'll have a lot of interesting comments to say about this. But listen to what David Kilgore has to say.
There's a related scourge of organ pillaging, which we're speaking to obviously today. It's been going on, as we've heard, for about 20 years. In mid-2006, the Coalition to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong asked David Mavis and I to investigate it. we were both went into it with open minds. We were, I think, both of us hoping it wasn't going to be true, but we very quickly discovered that it was true. And there's been reference to 50 kinds of evidence. I was a prosecutor for 10 years, so I should know something about evidence. And we came up with our report, a revised report, and then a book called Bloody Harvest. And we've continued to investigate ever since. We concluded that for 41,500 transplants done in the years 2000 to 2005 in China, the only reasonable explanation for sourcing was Falun Gong. Here are just two kinds of evidence of the 18 substantive kinds of evidence we found. We had people calling to institutions across China, hospitals, prisons, and so on, mostly hospitals, asking if they had Falun Gong organs available. I think he mentioned this actually, or no, actually, Robert mentioned yesterday that Falun Gong don't smoke or drink. They're very healthy. And that's the reason that people wanted Falun Gong organs. And we discovered that. And as I think it was mentioned in the film, that only Falun Gong were examined by doctors coming into these forced labor camps. And of course, they wondered, why are you examining me when you're torturing me to give up my Falun Gong beliefs? So, and the way it works, of course, is that when somebody arrives in Shanghai, the #1 people's hospital in Shanghai is where most people go from Europe. They're blood tested and so on, and then they go out on the computer and they find a match for somebody through this testing of Falun Gong. And they go out to the camp and they grab the poor man or woman and they give them a potassium, now it appears, and their liver or whatever is taken out. It's flown to Shanghai, and somebody comes back to London with a new liver, and they're probably told they're getting it from a convicted murderer. Well, of course, they don't want it from a convicted murderer. They want it from a Falun Gong practitioner. But this is just absolutely sick beyond belief that this is happening. And I wonder how many of you, probably all of you are aware of it, but I'm always astounded how many people are not aware that this has been going on since 2000. It's got to stop. And I really think that Ethan and Ember will speak about this too. I think we're close to the point where they're going to stop because they're getting so much bad publicity about it. Falun Gong practitioners who got out of China.
I just wanted to share that with you guys. I just wanted to share that with you, Ricky. I don't want to play too much, but it's about an hour and a half. I sent you the clip and the whole shebang. So if you want to share that with your listeners, that will be great. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. But the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, we were the first presentation on that day, and then that day as well, it was about 2-3 days at the tribunal, and we also testified in front of the British Parliament as well with many other witnesses as well. And there's two more clips. There's actually from the China Tribunal, which is also a huge piece of evidence that was done between 2018 and 2019, and the Uyghur Tribunal as well. Oh, there's absolutely no doubt this is genocide. So there we go. Yeah.
Obviously, you're following what's happening in China closely, and probably much more closely than the rest of us. When you look at like the Taiwan protests, when you look at, the Hong Kong protests, when you look at the conflict with Taiwan, many of us in the West, we get basically the media's version of what's going on. What's your take on those specific events and the conflicts?
Taiwan, like Hong Kong, are courageous countries that are the legitimate China. Taiwan is the legitimate China, and China has always hate the CCP. Let's just make a clear. China, the Chinese people, and I also go so far as that 90% of the Chinese people in the Chinese government are not the CCP. The CCP is an imposter. It's an evil specter that has controlled and tyrannically ruled China for the last 100 years. And has wiped out more life than 2 world wars combined, like I said. They've killed millions. They have the largest fur trade. They're divulging in adrenochrome, human meat, cannibalism. It just goes. The list goes on and on and on. So the Taiwanese fled the persecution of the CCP and created Taiwan, a courageous little country that has also banned organ tourism from China. and has been exposing the CCP's brutality against them, the Falun Gong, the Uyghur Muslims, the Tibetans, and others, just like the Hong Kong protesters. So it's just a matter of time now when China, under the CCP, invades or tries to invade Taiwan. But by the grace of God, I really truly hope that is not the case, because that is the legitimate China. That is the last offense of Chinese traditions and values against this evil specter that wants to control it. So in terms of the South China Sea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, we are really, even the infiltration to our society, we've been hijacked by a communist specter. The Constitutional Republic has been hijacked. The World Health Organization, the United Nations, I mean, the World Economic Forum, huge in bed with the CCP. So we have to really do something to stand up against this. I'm not sure what it is, because I'm not there in power. If I was there in power, you were there in power, we probably could do something if we weren't assassinated the moment we took those positions. We would not be bribed like most of these guys are doing or have been, and given billions of dollars. But there has to be a reckoning. You know, we have all these tribunals. I'll play you one more video. I know we haven't got much time, but the China Tribunal has come out against this. You know, but there's just very little that has been done because of the infiltration of the CCP. So my guess is as good as yours, and I've been doing this for 22 years of my life.
So Taiwan, why haven't they gotten invaded yet? Because obviously China's a very powerful, strong, big country, and Taiwan is small, and it seems like it would be really easy to just basically, you know, invade them. And then, or I guess the other side, another way of looking at this is also, why is China so concerned with Taiwan anyways, when it is such a small country? It's like they're not really a threat to China, you know, maybe a threat in regards to maybe exposing them. Is that maybe possibly?
That is, and we are on the verge of World War III. We're on the verge of World War III. Taiwan is a very strategic position for the United States. Okay, just like Israel and the United States, just like now with Russia and Ukraine, you're dealing with two factions, good and evil. In China right now, there are two factions, the Xi faction and the Zhang faction. The Zhang faction is the deep state. It is it's part of the globalist cabal. Xi, well, Xi is a different story. Xi has been demonized, but Xi is very similar to what Trump is. And Putin has been demonized. There are players behind the scenes that we don't know, but by the actions you will know them, and by the players that are supporting them, you will know who is good and who is bad. So my expertise, like I said, is divulging in exposing the forced organ harvesting, but I also have certain information. I cannot, you know, it's risky business, Ricky, as you know, being on the border of China, but not everything is what it seems. And those who are actually being demonized as horrible, evil people are actually the heroes in this. And those who are doing the demonization, deceiving people into thinking that, oh, the Russians are invading, the Russians are killing, Putin's an evil man. If you look closer down the line, look at the bioweapon labs in the Ukraine. Look at the nuclear power plants. Look at the Wuhan lab. Who concocted? Who were the players behind that? Not Putin. Not Xi, not Trump. There is a 5D chess going on now for the survival of the human race. And that is as far as I'm going to go. It's the white hats versus the deep state. I'm sure you've heard about all the QAnon conspiracy. I'm not going in there. I'm not going to go deep like that. But this is multi-dimensional chess. And when you really when you can really pierce through the deception, you can see it clearly for what it is, and who are the good players and who are the bad players. Even the Rothschilds, who backed Mao Zedong, called Putin a traitor to the New World Order. You've heard the New World Order and the Great Reset many times. It's in your face now, right? Soros, involved with Ukraine, Rothschilds involved with Ukraine and the CCP, the system that the globalists are using. So things are not what they seem, but a lot is going to be exposed. But again, going back to the Falun Gong, the CCP declared the Falun Gong a #1 enemy of the state because they were the biggest threat to the CCP's propaganda and control, simply just by being a truthful and compassionate, tolerant practice and spreading so large that the CCP couldn't control it. And anything that the deep state or the cabal or the evil satanic specters out there that can control, what do? They deceive people. They demonize people in order to believe that they are the ones that are the saviors, but they actually are the murderers. It's a huge scapegoat tactic. It's deception, and that's what the CCP is also master at. If that answers your question, I don't want to get too much involved in talking to it because my life's on the line here. But I tell you, it's the battle between good and evil, basically. That's the best way I can share with you, and that's as much as I can say for now.
Well, in the last couple of years, since 2020, I think many of us on this show and my other show, the Union of the Unwanted, which hopefully I'll have you on in the near future. We'll do a episode on this. We've been saying a lot, like how it feels like we're in some type of spiritual good versus evil type of battle. And when you look at like just humanity, it's like you really do feel like humanity is like at the break of something, either survival or decay and destruction. Like it's something. And I'm sure many people throughout the years can point out different historical events that probably seemed like the biggest thing ever and had similar feelings of like this could be the break of humanity. But I think now more than ever that might be true. And I'm sure living through World War I, World War II was terribly scary times. But there's just so much deceiving now. And when you look at, like you said, the censorship and the good versus evil, I've been really into Alexander Dugin recently, the philosopher from Russia. And his whole, I mean, he's just a thinker, a philosopher. Obviously, I know he's close to Putin. One of his nicknames is Putin's brain. And but the fact that I was just talking to Zach Forrest about this a couple episodes ago, the Google whistleblower, because he has a great new platform called Blast.video. And it's basically takes videos from Rumble, BitChute, all the alternative platforms and the mainstream platforms like YouTube, and helps you find news and independent news and trending news. And he does it without the manipulating algorithms. And he knows how to do it because he used to work for Google and YouTube. So he's good at this. And it's a great platform. But we were talking about how do you justify somebody like Alexander Dugin, who's just a professor and thinker and author? He got banned off YouTube. He never once promoted violence or said anything hateful towards anybody. It's like, that's when you know that we're in dangerous times, because they don't want you to think. They don't want you to question. They don't want you to see the other side of the narrative, because they want to control the narrative. And you saw that with COVID. And many of us, like yourself and myself, who've been deep down these rabbit holes for a long time, we know that this exists, but a lot of people are waking up to this. And it's almost become easier than ever to try to give people examples of, like, how do you justify, the Hunter Biden laptop story being suppressed right before the election? How do you justify, big tech picking and choosing who can say hateful speech and who can't? How do you justify somebody like Alexander Dugin or Peter McCullough or Robert Malone or whoever, these just people who are stating their opinions? How do you justify their censorship? And it's like, of course, if you control the information, our opinions and perspectives are influenced by the information we have access to. If you control that information, then you control our opinions and perspectives. And that's exactly what's going on. And somebody like Alexander Dugin is dangerous, or even RT TV or RT America is dangerous, because God forbid people find out that there's another side to the story, that there is other perspectives that aren't as evil and as as scary as they want you to believe. I mean, they made for years they were saying that RT was Russian propaganda, and even though, like, I didn't go to RT for my Russian news, in regards to other news, like other foreign news or even American news, RT America was very good. I mean, they had people like Jesse Ventura on the show. I'm like, how is an ex-governor working for Russian propaganda? Abby Martins, who is a very, her show Breaking the Set back in the day. I used to watch it all the time. And she's very anti-war and you had people like Larry King before he passed away had a show on there. I mean, but yet people would be like, oh, RT, it's Russian propaganda. I'm like, first of all, even if it is pushing the Russian narrative a little bit, you should explore that narrative, because the news that you're getting is also pushing a narrative. So this idea of like, I'm not going to watch them because they're going to be pushing the Russian narrative. Well, guess what? Everything you're watching on TV is pushing the American empire narrative. So it's like, you should see the other side and then try to filter out what makes the most sense and what doesn't. And you should observe all perspectives. And obviously, like, that's something that we can't do anymore. That's why these alternative platforms, my show's on Rockfin, BitChute, it's on Band.video, it's on, and I get some people who are like, oh, I don't like that platform. I'm like, listen, I don't care if you like the platform or not. I'm like, I don't care if I like the platform or not. I'm like, anywhere where I can post these conversations, I'm like, I will post them until they delete me. And YouTube deleted my channel during the lockdown when I was having all the doctors on, and and I'm like, you know what? Thank God that when one door closes, another one opens, because all these other alternative platforms like Rumble and Minds and Rockfin that a lot of people didn't really care that much about, we're finally waking up to the fact that, hey, if I want any alternative perspective, I'm not getting it on YouTube. I'm not getting it on Google. They're suppressing alternative perspectives. Back in the day, I used to do most of my research on Google and YouTube. You could go there, I could find some really interesting researcher like you who had this amazing a story and investigating things that I didn't know anything about, and I could go down that rabbit hole and learn some things. And now you go on YouTube, they force feed you the mainstream narrative. It's like, if I want to watch clips from CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, I'll just turn on my TV. I came to YouTube because that was a place I could get alternative perspectives, not the mainstream perspective, but they also know, all the mainstream platforms understand that majority of people do go on YouTube and Google for for news or information. So if you can force feed them the information there because they're not turning on the TV to watch it, then it'll be easier to kind of get them the narrative, the mainstream narrative. But we live in some crazy times, and the fact that it's even hard for me. I was trying to just look up information on this topic. There's barely anything out there. I mean, the majority of what I found was your work. There was nobody else.
Absolutely, because they have dismantled the ability to discern what is right and what is wrong, and they have brainwashed people with Project Mockingbird, and the weaponized media to weaponize people's fear. You know what's going on in Shanghai? Just to give off the record, and or it's not on the, it's going to be on the record, and I'll put it. It's been bioweaponized warfare. If you listen to Dr. Li Mingyan, and that's a whole other story for another show. I'm sure we can do part 2. I'm talking about the origins of the COVID-19 and what COVID-19 is, based on Dr. Richard Fleming and Dr. Peter Brigham, who wrote the book COVID-19 and the Global Predators and We Are the Prey. He shared, and he has been endorsed by Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Dr. Peter McCullough, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who wrote the book The Real Anthony Fauci, the mass murdering demon who has colluded with the Chinese Communist Party, like DARPA and Peter Daszak and Ralph Barrick. Okay, I mean, and Fort Detrick. I mean, what to the Wuhan lab, and they all say China this, China that. It's the CCP. You're colluding with a mass murdering regime that's harvesting hundreds and thousands of innocent Falun Gong practitioners, cutting their organs out of their bodies, making a massive billion-dollar business out of this, has wiped out 400 million unborn babies and born babies in a one-child policy. Official Chinese documentation, we've got the numbers. Not to mention the 100 million people that have been wiped out under all the campaigns of the CCP and their reign of terror. And you got Dr. Peter Bringen, Ricky, talking about, and he was on Alex Jones the other day, and he has been coined the father of psychiatry. And Peter McCullough has says that this book is a must-read now to understand what is happening before our very eyes. So he came out and said that all the predators in this world, all the predators in the, can you hear me, Ricky?
Yeah, sorry. I think you might. Did you accidentally hit the stop recording? Maybe.
No,
oh, it wasn't you. I don't know. It just kept stopping. But either way, I started up the recording again, so we're good to go.
It's okay. No problem. So, there's always going to be interference because there's, they like to infiltrate as well. I can be honest with you, especially because I'm in China as well. So, the bandwidth is definitely the firewall, etc., etc. They do meddling things. But anyway, Dr. Peter Bringen has said that all these predators, all these globalist predators, have made us the prey, and they are aligned with the CCP. So, all roads lead to the CCP. The center stage is the CCP, China.
Well, you look at the Fauci emails that were released, and I think some of them by Del Bigtree's ICANN organization, and I mean, it was obvious that they were
recording stopped.
Why? China
recording
might be
in progress.
China might be messing with us because they keep stopping the recording of this podcast. That's the first time that's ever happened. Never mind 8 times in one show. But yeah. I mean, if you go to what they were doing, I mean, why would they intentionally be so against finding the root of the virus and the origin of the virus? And if you look at like all the things that were happening in that lab, the whistleblowers. And I lost you. Did I lose you? I might have lost Mitchell. Well, I'll keep talking and see if he comes back on. If he doesn't, then we'll have to continue this with a part 2. But what I was saying, if there's also, oh, here he is. He's back, and you're back. Yeah. So something's messing with us.
Recording stopped.
Oh my God.
Recording in progress.
This is the life we live in, man. I come out with the heavy hitters, man. I tell you.
Well, I like my wife always tells me, she's like, you're on somebody's list. I mean, you've had, Thomas Drake on, you've had UN whistleblowers, you've had, so I'm like, I've definitely, I'm sure I'm on somebody's list somewhere.
Pat yourself on the back, Rick. You're doing a great job, man.
I guess I try. It's funny how like this is considered dangerous. Like I get banned off YouTube. And I have discussions with people everywhere I go. As you can probably tell, I'm a little bit of a chattermouth. But it's, everywhere I go, I have discussions. And I'm like, don't I just come off as a curious person who's just willing to entertain of like different ideas and perspectives and not dismiss anything? I'm like, why is that dangerous for people? Why are those type of people the shows that are being banned or censored? I mean, Joe Rogan, very similar in regards to, he took a while to come around.
Recording stopped.
Jesus.
Joe Rogan doesn't get into the heavy hitting stuff that we're getting into. He doesn't.
I mean, I give him a little. First of all, I remember when I had Del Bigtree on. Well, he's been on a bunch, but one of the times that he was on, and I was like, "Hey, Del, like, how about going on Joe Rogan's podcast?" And he came right out, and he's like, Joe Rogan's a pussy. He's like, I've been trying to get on there or get Robert Kennedy Jr. on there. And he's like, he will not have us on. I want to believe that because he has so much attention on this show, because he did come around with Peter McCullough and Dr. Robert Malone. I mean, I think a little bit of it was a little late, because it's like, okay, these guys, there's so many people like myself and you and other people who have been censored for speaking
Recording
truth.
stopped.
How is
recording in progress?
Skype. What do you or Zoom? What are you doing? How is that even possible? I'm not even hitting anything.
Zoom is also being infiltrated by the CCP, by the way. That's why a lot of people don't use it anymore. But that's okay. Please continue,
let me see if I can see.
You see, Robert Malone and Peter McCullough, I like them, but they're too soft. It's like soft. You got to go.
But do you
They
think
are good.
it's because like they're I always say this, like the thing about Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Robert Malone, like their life's work hasn't been going down these rabbit holes of corruption and conspiracies and these bigger agendas. They've been scientists or doctors or whatever. So sometimes people give them a little bit of a hard time on those things. I'm like, I just don't think. I think they've spent their whole life's work working in being an expert in one field or a couple related fields, that they're kind of naive to some of the other things that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recording stopped.
Maybe what we'll do is I'll make the end of this conversation of audio because we showed all the clips already. So I'll just make the rest of it audio.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Let's see. The bottom line is I actually got a couple more clips if you don't mind, but because I know we haven't got much time and they're messing with us. Of course they are. But I would like to see on Dr. Oriana Love, Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Dr. Peter Brigham. These are the guys that I want to see on there because they are the heavy hitters. Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, I mean, his death threats, the death threats that are coming out to see him, I mean, on him is unbelievable. And you also have Dr. Ricardo Delgado and Dr. Andreas Nowak, who was murdered for the discovery of all these things in the Pfizer vials. And the VP Michael Yeadon as well. But Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Peter McCullough, I admire them and I appreciate them, but they need to be more red pill. They've just been red pill because they have been scientists. They haven't gone down the rabbit hole as others have gone. But anyway.
Recording stopped.
See, they don't like it. They don't like
recording in progress.
That is so. It's funny because that's literally has never happened ever. I mean, I just released my 400th episode a couple of days ago or yesterday, and it's like with Dr. Jessica Rose, and that's never happened, and it's hilarious that it's happening now. But one thing we do know is that the Chinese government does know how to control the internet and control information. So who knows? They're probably, chances are if I'm being tracked by somebody, you're definitely also being tracked by somebody.
Oh, sure. Do you mind if I play another clip just to share a little bit more before we get terminated altogether?
Yeah, sure.
Man, you might have to.
Oh yeah, I'll make you a co-host again. Give me 1 second. You should.
It's actually pats yourself on the back. I always like to pat myself when this happens because it makes me feel that I'm doing
recording
the right work.
Stopped.
Oh, look at that! They even knew you were going to play something.
I wanted to play this for you. 1 second. Let me see what we can do here. Here's my the channel should be take a look at this, Ricky. Just a little bit. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but just a couple of minutes. This is also the evidence.
Would it be possible in today's day and time that the government would incarcerate 1 million people, blood test them, get their tissue samples, put that in a database, and then sell their organs around the world? Would it be possible that professional doctors would commit such atrocity to extract organs from a live body?
Oh, I lost volume on the video. Can you hear me? Oh, and I lost you. Wow, this is getting kind of weird. So Mitchell just left the Zoom. This is probably one of the weirdest and probably one of the most obvious examples that something is going on. I mean, he just keeps getting kicked out of the Zoom call. And they keep stopping the recording of the call. And I say they because I don't know who. This has never happened before, and this is wild. I'll see if I'd like to have. Oh, he's back. He's back and hopefully alive.
Sorry, Ricky.
It's okay. I'm just glad you're back and alive. So what we'll do is we'll do a part 2, and we'll get any links that you want me to put in the show description, anything whatsoever, anything that you think is crucial for listeners to check out, send to me and I'll put in the show description. I'll also help you out with getting on other shows.
Please.
Yeah. I got a lot of friends in the alternative media community and podcasting world, and I'll be more than happy to kind of reach out and see if I can help you get on some big shows and spread the word and put some attention onto your work. For people listening who want to stay connected with you.
Recording stopped.
Oh my God, this is insane. For people listening who want to stay connected with you, want to keep up with your work, or want to keep up with this story, are you on any social media platforms? Is there an email address? Is there a way of contacting you? Is there a way? Do you have a website? Anything you want to promote, please?
I would love to. Let me share. Do you want to give me sharing screen quickly, and I'll just share the websites that people can go and take a look at. Yeah, guys, if you want to go and take a look at this is the website, falleninfo.net. I raise awareness for them. I don't receive any money for this. I just want to share this because it's the right thing to do. Falleninfo.net. Now my internet's not doing so well. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
So his internet's not doing well. I believe he's in Vietnam or somewhere in Asia, close to China. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some way of spying on him and cutting off his internet.
Okay, Ricky, don't worry. I'm going to get you the links, guys. Sorry about that, but you know that look at the guilt. They are proving themselves for who they are, and that's why when you get banned like this, and they tap into this and they stop the recordings and cut me out, you know that we are on the right side of destiny.
I completely agree. It means you're close to something, and I can't thank you enough for your courage and what you're doing. We joke around about how, like, oh, it's dangerous stuff, but it really is. Political assassinations and all types of assassinations happen. You look at Michael Hastings, you look at, so many people you can bring up. This stuff does happen. So without a doubt, my hat goes off to people like you who are willing to take the risks to expose this stuff and get this information out there. And I'll help any way I can in regards to helping you get on shows and spreading this information. And it is a topic that's been neglected. Mitchell, any final words?
Stay strong and always defend what is right. To fail to support what is right and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. And as you can see, they're trying to interfere. This is, when they're cornered, this shows that they're cornered rats on a sinking ship, Ricky, with no place to go and no place to hide. They're all about to be exposed. The indictments, the traitors in this world that have colluded with this red specter, this Chinese Communist Party, are all going to be exposed soon enough. And I will not rest, even if they start to take me out, ban me. I mean, I've tried to put on radio shows, channels that have all been taken off because I really go down the rabbit hole now, and I don't fear exposing this evil. I fear doing the wrong thing. So thank you, brother, and I would look forward to seeing you again. I'm always available. I'll send you the clips for your audience, and please, I would love to go on more shows, and that would be wonderful. But for you, man, you're also courageous, and God bless you, brother. You're doing God's work. And keep strong, keep vibing, and keep jamming out, man, because we're gonna hold the light.
Absolutely. I mean, I love endings like this because I think sometimes it does seem all dark and we seem helpless, but these connections, helping each other in the way we can, networking together, we can fight back. I'm a big believer in strength in numbers, and if we can find the similarities with each other and not let their plan work in regards to divide and conquer and constantly focus on what we have that is different and focus more on what we have that is similar, and maybe celebrate our differences and not demonize because of our differences, I think that we can come together and we can win. So, and I think we are in a spiritual battle, and you are helping fight back against that spiritual battle. So thank you so much, Mitchell. I can't thank you enough for your work, and we'll definitely keep in touch, and I'll send you links once it shows up in live, and I will definitely be sending you some emails in regards to introducing you to some other shows also.
Thank you, Ricky, and I'll send my best to Brandon. Brandon sends his best. I want to see him tomorrow night, but I'm always a pleasure.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, tell Brandon I said hi.
I will. Thank you, brother. Thanks so much, and thanks everybody for listening, and I'll send you the links so that people can go and check out the work.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitchell. Take care.
See you, Ricky.